Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Law, to hear the Democratic witnesses, immigration is slowed to a trickle. Yet you pointed out that currently the United States issues over 1 million green cards per year, and over 43 million aliens have obtained lawful permanent residency status since the 1965 Act. You point out in your written testimony that the number of immigrants in the United States has gone from 9.6 million in 1970 to 44.9 million in 2019, a nearly 4.5-fold increase. You point out that the immigrant share of the U.S. population has nearly tripled over this time period, from 4.7% to 13%, and that the United States admits more immigrants per year with a path to citizenship than the rest of the world combined. That doesn't sound like a trickle to me. What am I missing?
Thank you, sir. No, the only trickle would, of course, be this last year, which, of course, the entire world shut down due to COVID-19. Any suggestion otherwise that immigration has been shut out, more specifically within the Trump administration, is simply not true. During the previous administration, legal immigration, meaning green cards, continued to average just slightly over 1 million a year. That has been consistent with more recent historical norms. Any form of temporary worker programs, such as the aforementioned H-1B or H-2B programs, those caps have been met. In fact, the H-2B supplemental authority that Congress delegated was utilized numerous times by respective DHS secretaries. So it's just simply not true. It's intellectually dishonest to suggest that legal immigration was shut out at any time under the Trump administration.
Well, we have heard about long waiting times. Now, I recall Gallup polling estimates that from their polling data, just in Latin America and the Caribbean, there are 42 million people wanting to come to the United States, let alone from the rest of the world. Aren't the wait lists the natural consequence of the simple fact that not everybody who wants to come to the United States can come to the United States?
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, we're really posed with just two choices. You either have unlimited immigration, which our country legitimately cannot sustain. Our borders cannot contain the entire world's population. And as great of a nation as we are, it's unsurprising that everybody would want to come here. We don't have the space, and we certainly don't have the economy to cover everybody. Regarding the green card, so therefore we have respective limits that Congress has set in place. When there is a higher demand than there is the available amount of green cards, there is not a backlog, as has been often mischaracterized. It is, in fact, a wait list. That's exactly what that means. You have to wait until your number becomes available. A backlog suggests basically government ineptitude in delayed processing. There's no amount of expeditious processing that the government could do to approve all of the green cards, particularly for what is called the oversubscribed nations. There is a limit that Congress has put in place, and for those who aren't able to get in because of those limits, they simply are just waiting their turn. It's not a backlog, it is a wait list, and that distinction is, I think, very critical to understand.
You mentioned that the per country cap on green cards. Without that, wouldn't it mean that the largest countries would then claim all the slots? I mean, isn't the per country cap designed to assure that citizens of every country have a shot at those slots?
Absolutely. The 1952 immigration system had a national origin quota system that we did away with in the 1965 Act. Having per country caps was a very, I think, thoughtful decision that said we value diversity in our immigrant population. We don't want populous countries or large sending countries to capture all of the green cards at the expense of nationals from every other country in the world. Recent time, go ahead.
Right. I was going to say, we heard one Democratic witness recommend that we start by removing the per country limits, but ultimately we should remove the worldwide limits, all the worldwide limits on family and employment-based immigration entirely. What would that mean for working American families?
I mean, if we were to disregard all forms of immigration limits and the entire world's population came to the United States, there are very few Americans that would find themselves employed or certainly having the same types of wages and opportunities that they currently have. I mean, it's just simple supply and demand. And with respect to the per country caps, while it does appear just by a quick reading of the statute to be limited to 7%, there's actually a carve-out provision that when the lower sending countries don't utilize their allotment, higher sending countries do get more of that. When it comes to India, they're currently getting 25% of the green cards available in a given fiscal year. If you disregard per country caps, Indian nationals will take at least 90% of the green cards for the next decade. And what that means is you don't have diversity in the immigrant population, and you've now injected weight to everybody else in the world just to cater to one particular population.
I see my time's expired. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. The chairman of the committee, Mr. Nadler, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Byer.